Alrighty, so we are back here at Her Movement. I am Labrina, the founder and president of Her Movement. And here we have one of our ambassadors in Arizona who's originally from California, Bakersfield. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I am Sadie Lopez, and I'm just extremely grateful to be a part of this amazing movement. And thank you so much for having me today and doing this with me. I'm excited to talk about mental health.
For sure. And as she stated, mental health. For those of you who did not know, this month is the month of mental health awareness. So a lot of people hear mental health and they think, oh, that person's crazy, something's wrong. It's just a strong stigma.
It is
I think when you hear the word mental health, you just think
very
bad.
much so. Mm-hmm.
But in reality, everyone has problems. Everyone has something they go through. It's just when you have a mental health illness, you're actually diagnosed because you go through that period and you struggle a bit more than the other person. Everyone
Exactly.
has stress, right?
Yes, life, the
But
society will bring that on to you.
correct, correct. But those with the illness or the disorder, they will handle stress a bit different. So instead of like a normal person, when they're stressed out, they may get over it within a day or two, or maybe a week. They'll get over it and go back to their happy place. But when you have a mental illness, that's a bigger struggle. Like you
It
have
is.
other things going on in your mind moving rapidly. So you need that extra support, whether it's a whole holistic approach, meaning no medications,
Mhm.
or whether it is utilizing medications because you really need it.
Yeah,
So that's my intake about mental health.
for sure.
That's going on right now. Do you have any inputs that you want to share
So, yes,
or
I just
ask?
want to say, I just want to say I agree with everything that you just said. Especially when it comes to, I think the title of what you're diagnosed with, whether that's ADHD, ADD, PTSD, depression, anxiety, knowing that you have that label on you is what leads to the amount of stress. Because, no one wants to be labeled. But at the end of the day, you do need to come to terms with, okay, this is what I am psychologically dealing with, and I need to take a serious approach. But
Right.
with the society we live in today, it can be embarrassing because of just being misunderstood. But I kind of like to look at mental health as like an internal wound only you can feel and see. When you look at yourself in the mirror, okay, this is my story, and unfortunately parts of my story did lead to this and that, not some, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes you can look at someone and okay, I see they're struggling with this, I see they do battle this, but most times it is that internal wound that only you can feel. And
Correct.
unfortunately, being that it's internally, everyone is quick to judge, and everyone, like you, like just at the beginning of the segment, oh, they're crazy, or they this or they that, but you don't know what they're battling internally. So yeah, that's my piece on when it comes to mental health.
Yes, I agree with you, and I love the way you explained it. Because for so long, individuals don't talk about mental health just because they want to avoid it. You'll get over it. You'll be fine. Depression isn't real, or they just have these sayings that they've been
Yeah.
going by for years, generation after generation. And I
Mm-hmm.
think now in this age, 2023, this new generation is being spoken of, hey, I need help
Yeah.
and I know I need help. I don't care what you guys say. I need this help.
Yeah.
And I like where we're at and I like where we're going in the society with bringing more awareness to mental health, and not just pushing it off or brushing it off like you'll be okay. Or you just that
Exactly.
she or he just crazy. Something wrong with them. But
Right.
are you helping? Are you sitting down to talk to them, trying to understand? Because sometimes when, especially with depression, they just need that person to talk
That's
to
it.
give that motivation.
That's it.
But
I
if you're
love that
always
she's.
downing, oh, I'm so sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, you're good. What was that last part you said? You're always with.
Oh, so what was I gonna say? I was saying sometimes people you kind of discourage individuals when they're seeking help and they want to talk
Mm,
about the depression, but
yeah.
you're just saying, oh, you'll get over it, you'll be fine. You kind of discourage that person from taking that next step.
One thing that can be extremely discouraging for people who do battle mental illness is that invalidation.
Mhm.
Invalidation is like once someone who hears that, and it's just an immediate put down when it comes to them even just trying to speak up. And like you said, like, oh, you're gonna be okay, or you'll get over it, or don't get too hung up on it. And it's just like, no, like I can't keep surpassing these emotions because that's what these generations have done over and over and over and over. It's just completely looked over what's going on. We cannot do
Mhm.
that no more. And like you said, we live in a time where we need a lot of us try to really do sit down with ourselves. And it's that older generation. I don't want to come for that older generation, but I see some of them working on it too. But I'm grateful that we do live in a time where our generation is really speaking for that mental health and trying to get people the help that they deserve, for sure.
I agree. I agree. And even just us having this conversation right now, 10 years ago, no one was having this conversation. It
Nobody.
was uncomfortable, the unspoken of,
Mhm.
and now it's okay to have these conversations. Some people agree, like they're open to having these conversations.
Right.
Some may tune in right now and say, "Oh, they got a point." And
Mhm.
that's even the first step. That's even the first step to
It
just
is baby steps.
acknowledging baby steps
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
acknowledgement will lead to just baby steps in general. Like once you're able to acknowledge what you have going on, okay, sitting down with yourself and understanding that you do have these issues, you will
Mhm.
soon be able to just grasp it as a whole. But you don't ever
Correct.
want to jump into everything you kind of want to ease your way into it. But yeah, I agree. And I want to just kind of add on because one big thing with mental health is triggers.
Yes.
And we live in a very, you can ask anybody, we live in a very trigger generation. But whoever is watching this, when you guys do see this, and if you do struggle with triggers, just know that triggers do play a purpose. You wouldn't be getting triggered if you had not moved on from what triggered you in the beginning. I like to look at triggers as something that plays a purpose and kind of reminds you, hey, like this was once you at a certain point of time, you know, because triggers can be super scary. I myself, I deal with triggers sometimes, but I have to remind myself, okay, I wouldn't be getting triggered if I wasn't in the, if I didn't transition, if I haven't elevated,
Right.
so I just try to look at it like that, and I hope that can help anybody who does struggle with triggers.
And also for anyone who's watching and they're trying to find out how to identify their trigger,
Hmm.
just think of when you're about if you deal with anger management, anger, if you are trying to identify your trigger, what do you notice happens right before you get really angry? Do you start pacing the room? Do you curse? Do you shake? What is it that you do right before you get really, really angry? That's how you know how to identify your trigger. If you're the person that's struggling with depression, what happens before you get to that point where you don't want to get out of the bed, you don't want to shower, you don't want to talk to anyone? What happens right before that point? And that's how you identify your triggers. Like before you get to that point of the trigger,
Hmm.
what happened to lead up to that trigger? Because a lot of
Right.
people don't know their trigger. They don't know what the trigger is.
Hmm.
So you have to identify what is the trigger in order to resolve it and to prevent it. If you know what
That
you're
is
preventing, it's easy.
Yeah, that is so important. I love that you were able to, you added on to that because just being aware as a whole. And okay, so I know this is about to happen. And it's just like reading the energy where you're at. Okay, I can't be here because this is going to happen, or this is what does happen before I do get triggered. And that's amazing that, you brought that up because that's super important. And once you're able to identify what um what happens right before you continue to kind of, it's like a self-healing. That's one of the
Yes.
most self-healing methods that you can do, is just identifying your triggers, what happens before them, after them, and just being able to cope as a whole, because not always are you going to have someone right there next to you
Right.
when you have a trigger. You have to be able to face those battles alone
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. And I love that you use the word cope because that's what comes next is your
Yeah.
cope. What are your coping skills? And
Hmm.
often I use the term coping skills and individuals like, I don't know, what is coping skills? So coping skills is something that helps relax you as a person. When no one else is around, what can you do to help you relax, feel comfortable in a nice, safe environment, whether it's a mental safe environment or physical safe environment?
Heavy on the
Um,
safe. Yes.
yes, and for example, coping skills that people do all the time that we don't realize is a coping skill, listening to music. Some
Yeah,
people,
that's a huge one. That's a huge
right?
one.
Yes.
Yes, because I'm a firm believer in that music is spiritual.
Mhm.
And whatever you listen to or subject yourself to, you become. But I mean, you also do want to be careful with what you are coping yourself with, because it can be, a soothing song versus like pain music that's just going to continue to remind you of what you're annoyed with.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be real. Like if and I'm not bashing anyone who does cope with, but this is just kind of like to look at. Okay, if I'm already in a state of annoyance, depression, feeling anxious, don't add to that, right? Um, and I mean, like I said, we all have our ways of coping, but you are real coping. Music is a big one. Just letting that melody play and hearing whatever it is, speak
Yes.
to you and kind of like, okay. But yeah, that's a huge one. That is a huge one.
Another one that people don't realize is their coping skill, cleaning. Some people, ever
Mm,
been so mad you just start cleaning the house and fixing
girl,
stuff.
what?
That's a coping skill.
Or
Like,
anxious? Yep.
yes, we do it unconsciously, because our body is trying to relax. We're trying to get to that safe place. We're trying, but we don't realize that we're actually utilizing a coping skill because in this era, most people we don't say, "Oh, I'm going to do my coping skill today." We don't say that. We don't. But it is a term that we need to know and be comfortable with using and actually utilizing that to prevent the triggers and not just doing it when I'm already upset or when I'm already
Hmm.
triggered. Do
Yeah,
this before to prevent the
absolutely.
trigger.
For sure. She said, I'm gonna do my coping skill. I don't know why that took me out. But no, seriously, it is a subconscious thing that you don't even realize what you're doing. Like, some signs of anxiety can be like shaking your leg or biting your nails, and it just
Yes.
becomes so common to you. I'm not
Mhm.
even, whoa, right? And
Yeah.
it's crazy how it happens. But like you said, we got to pay attention to the before, the during, and the after of the triggers so we can slowly but surely take those baby steps into identifying, sitting with them, and not suppressing them.
Correct. And also, since we're talking about coping skills, I want to put out there we want to do positive coping skills, not negative coping skills.
That part.
Drinking all day is a coping skill, but it's negative.
That part.
You might
Negative
cope, but it's negative.
is what one thing. Okay, so I watched this YouTuber and he talks about the delay effects. Everything that we do has a delay effect, right? If you eat, fast food, you're not gonna feel so great later. Versus if you have a nice smoothie and a fruit, you're gonna feel, you're having
Yeah.
energy, you're gonna feel good. Everything has a delay effect, and like you said, and like I said earlier, with the music and those different ways of coping, you had to really just identify, okay, how is this going to make me feel after? Because I don't feel good right now, but I want to feel
Mhm.
good later, and that's what coping is the intention of coping is something that's going to help you feel, progress.
Right.
Exactly. I like that you said that. Seriously, we're not gonna drink all day. We're not.
Seriously, because some people are like, I'm using my coping skills and I had a glass of wine or a glass of that's is that really positive? No.
No, it's not,
And
friend. We're gonna work on it though. We're not here to judge. We're gonna work with you.
exactly, exactly. And just to bring that awareness, because some people may think, hey, I am doing it the right way, but in reality, it's a negative coping skill. So you want
Yeah.
to reflect on self. And when I say reflect, that means take a step back, look at yourself, your
Hmm.
lifestyle, everything that happened that 24 hours, you could say, and see what can I have done different?
Right.
How could I have been better today? Even if it was a good day, and not trying to beat yourself up, but you're trying to improve, you're trying to
That part.
evolve. And
I
that's
like
the
to.
purpose. Yeah, that's the
Sorry.
purpose
Yeah.
of looking back.
That I was gonna say. I like to. What I call it is identifying and then dissecting. like
Mhm.
dissecting, what's this different parts of what I could have done differently and how I will apply what I know to if,
Right.
when that happens again. Um, wow, that's it just amazes me, it's crazy, but at the same time, like, we really will come to a point where you get so fed up with your negative coping
Yeah.
skills that eventually you're just going to leave yourself, okay, what am I need to change this, because I can guarantee a lot of alcoholics, they're real with themselves, but
Yeah.
sometimes you become so comfortable with your coping mechanisms that you don't want to escape that. And being
Mhm.
comfortable is that's you don't want to be comfortable, especially in a
Right.
negative situation like that.
Correct. Correct. And then trying to get that support system. Um,
Yeah.
whether it's a stranger that you just met, just someone to listen. If that's
Hmm.
support, that is support.
For
If you're
sure.
calling the hotline and you're just speaking to that hotline every time you feel like you need someone to talk to, that's fine. That's
Exactly.
support.
Yeah.
Um, go ahead.
Oh no, I because you had brought it up. It is funny because I was gonna bring it up as well, being we're talking
Mhm.
about, just support. Um, so I do want to say that there is a mental health hotline as well as a substance abuse and a crisis lifeline. It's just 988. Um, and there are just so many resources when it comes to dealing with your issues. You can go on YouTube, how to cope with mental health, how to different ways to help my ADHD, my depression.
Mhm.
And I like that, we live in a time, social media can be a great thing. It really can. It's just a matter of how
Yeah.
you use it. And just never be afraid to reach that handout, because everybody, like you said at the beginning of this segment, everybody is battling something and we all just want that help.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. Whether we say it or not, we all can use that support. We all can use that help.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off that, even with a therapist, a counselor, a life coach, I, for one, my personal opinion, it's not mandatory, but
Mhm.
I think everyone would benefit from having a therapist, counselor, or life coach involved in their life, whether your
100%.
life is quote unquote perfect, good, bad, and you wherever you are in life, at least once a year, at least,
Right.
because you get to release everything within you, talk freely. It's a
Mhm.
professional setting. Everything is confidential. You don't have to worry about your sister, brother, cousin on um,
Right.
giving their
Exactly. And that it's just a
personal
safe space.
opinions. Yes, yes. It's like a detox of from life, just life
Exactly.
in general.
Anybody, um I remember I was thinking about therapy myself and like just kind of like scoping out different ways to cope, and just and just thinking about therapy in general, and I was just like, I wonder if there's a single person on this earth that couldn't benefit from it. And so now that you're talking about it, it just makes sense. Like, there is not a single person on this earth that couldn't benefit from therapy, especially
Yeah.
the times we live in. Come on.
Yes,
But yeah,
yes,
the resources will always be there.
correct. So,
Hmm.
like she said, I just want to piggyback off her comment. The resources are there. There's even, I was just searching online for one of my clients. There's even free therapy out there. You may have to be on a waiting list, but there's free therapy out there for individuals. Um, you just have to go search, find out the resources. And if
Hmm.
you don't want to do your research and search the web or anything, you can always call 988. As she stated before, it's like a emergency mental health hotline,
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah,
like 911,
but
nine eight
988.
eight. Yes.
Yes. And even if, and I just want to say this too, since we're kind of just, coming to an end when it just comes to resources and whatnot, I feel like self therapy is amazing too. Don't get me wrong, talking to
Yeah.
someone that's always going to be beneficial.
Mhm.
But the number one person that you can always just be real and vulnerable with and transparent with is yourself. At the end of the day, you
Mhm.
have to keep it real with yourself rather than anybody else. And
Correct.
if need be, and it comes down to it, get a quiet space. Go, literally just go on YouTube, type in, calm music, meditation music, pray, meditate, do what you need to do to just be quiet and just let, those thoughts flow. And just, just to be one with yourself and just come to that time of just quietness, because I really think that's what we need sometimes. We live in a fast-paced world.
Mhm,
We can always hear something or see
mhm,
something, and we have access to technology, and it is overwhelming. It is
mhm,
extremely overwhelming, but I think one of the biggest thing is just sitting with yourself sometimes. Like you said, you might have to be on a waiting list, but
mhm,
that's just something that you can do in the meantime. I
mhm.
wanted to add that in there.
Of course. And it sounds like to me what I was hearing you say is include self-care into
Oh my
your daily
gosh.
activities. That meditation, what you were talking about, a moment to self. That's
Mhm.
self-care. That's you taking care of your mental. That's
Yeah,
important.
being kind to
Um,
your mind.
yeah, yes, I love that. And or journaling, writing things down in a
I love
journal
the journal.
daily. That's soothing to the
Mhm.
mind, the soul, and you just releasing without telling anybody. You're telling yourself pretty much in the book. And you can
Yeah,
always revisit to see your growth, where you came from. It's ways out there, a
it
lot.
is. Journaling is one of the biggest ways to look at your growth. Me personally, I do video diaries on my laptop. I journal. Um, those are one of the two main things I do. But my earliest journal I have is from junior high. Ooh, I just unplugged my light. Forgive me. But my foot. But being able to look back and just see your growth, I think that's what could give you the biggest motivation for sure.
Mhm. I
But I need to
agree.
add that. My light just we still here though. That's all that matters.
It's all good. But
Yes,
that's all for this segment today. Thank you for joining
of
and
course.
tuning
Thank
in
you.
with her movement about mental health awareness this month. It's never too late to include mental health into your daily activities.
Always. That's key to a successful life and healing for sure.
Yes, yes. So this is it. We will see you all next month.
All right, everybody, take care.